Catalyst Podcast.
Worship Ministry Catalyst is a resource for all worship leaders and team members serving in the local church.
So take a seat at the table and join the conversation as we discuss all things worship, from team dynamics to technology and song selection.
And now it's time for the show.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Worship Ministry Catalyst Podcast. I got a real treat for us today. I think it's a real treat. I'm excited to have this conversation, and Joe may join us. We'll see. He's doing his day job, so sometimes his work requires him to skip out on things, and we appreciate that he has an income. We appreciate that he has a roof over his head. So we're gonna just be thankful that he's able to do those kinds of things. And if he joins us, it'll be a blessing. If not, we'll catch him next time. But today we're going to be talking with someone that I've actually been talking with a little bit over the last, probably 3 or 4 months, I guess, maybe since March, however many months that is, and someone that's been a real encouragement to me, someone that's also quite a bit further down the road, in a road that I'm starting to travel on, and has offered a lot of wisdom and insight into that, and also just has a lot of wisdom, insight, experience in the worship world and music world. And so I'd like to welcome to the Worship Ministry Catalyst Podcast for the first time, Christi Stills. Christi, how are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing good. How are you, David? Oh, it's morning time where you're at.
Yes, it's morning. Yeah, you're in Nashville. It's afternoon. We're in the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's still morning. It's an hour and a half until lunch for us, so that's...
Right. I'm done with lunch.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, if you could just take a few seconds and kind of introduce yourself to us, and just give us a little bit of an overview of your life and your journey to this point, and whatever you feel appropriate to share, that's what we'll take.
Okay. Well, my name is Christi Stills, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to come onto your podcast and chat. David, I think you and I met through, I can't remember which Facebook it was, but I saw there was a thread where you were talking about a playlist, and I think that's how we connected. Yep. So that was really neat. But anyway, David and I are on similar journeys because he has put out an album of hymns. And interestingly, I started out that way too. November of 2018, I released an album called All the Day Long. That's a CD for people who have old-fashioned cars that still have CD players.
Right.
So
yeah, a friend of mine actually just released another hymn CD last year, I think it was, and it was only on CD. And I had to find something to play it on, because we have CD players in our cars, but they don't work anymore. So I'm like, how am I going to listen to this?
Right. My husband actually still has a cassette player in his airport truck that he runs back and forth to work with. So anyway, yeah, we've got all the vehicles here. So, and then in June of, I think it was, let me look on here. It was June of 2019. I did a CD of originals. That's Lavender Fog, and those are all piano solos. So anyway, that's kind of where I started.
I didn't ask this beforehand. Yeah. Can I play a little bit of any of those?
Sure. Sure, that'll be fine.
I've got Lavender Fog pulled up here on Spotify. We'll give the listeners just a few seconds to hear it. Might need to turn it up. So there's a little taste of what Christi does. It's really beautiful music. And sorry, I interrupted you. So go ahead, continue on where you were.
No, that's great. Thank you. So anyway, that's, I didn't really, before I did these CDs, I wasn't really plugged into Spotify or streaming platforms or anything like that.
Right.
So that was like a huge learning curve. Just figuring out people aren't going to buy CDs; they're streaming now. So,
right.
But life seems to be a perpetual learning curve.
Yeah. Especially lately.
Anyway, yes, especially lately. So anyway, getting into the whole Spotify thing, that was like a new avenue of connection with people from all over the world. Which I didn't have intentions of that. I think we kind of had similar journeys in that I would play hymn arrangements for communion and for offertories, and people began to start coming up to me saying, "Hey, you need to make a CD of your music," and I put it off for years and years.
Yep.
But that goes with the seasons of life. So I've mostly been consumed with family life, homeschooling my kids, and that's coming to a close pretty soon. So really, it's an exciting journey, and I'm kind of shifting into that. What's going to happen next for empty nesting and all that.
Right.
So,
yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Your life as a homeschool mom. What was that journey like for you?
Well, let's see. It's been about 25 years.
Okay.
I've been in that journey. My kids are 10 and a half years apart. I've got 2 kids. And I loved it because it was an opportunity for me to learn everything I didn't pay attention to when I was in school. So,
right.
But yeah, there are a lot of good memories and a lot of good opportunities through that journey.
And it sounds like you're about to wrap that up or have wrapped that up?
We've wrapped it up. The baby has graduated.
Okay.
So.
Was that recently? Was that this year?
It was June 5th.
How's that going for you?
Mostly good. So, yeah, he was supposed to graduate May 18th, and it was a group homeschool graduation. And like half of our families got COVID all at the same time. And so, so anyway, we shifted graduation to June 5th. So, and amazingly, it all worked out. It came together.
That's great. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, is it hard on you though, kind of being done? I mean, these are your kids, your babies, and now you're done with that season.
It is, yeah. It's bittersweet,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm taking those experiences and I'm delving into tutoring with other kids, in the journey, trying to help other moms, encourage other moms who are, we all have our good days and then our other days,
right?
So, there's a lot of experience that I want to take with me and help somebody else whenever I can.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, or I think you commented on it a little bit with when Joe and I were talking about the article that Fred had written about, just kind of how our worship world. And I've talked a lot about this, kind of ranted on it. I kind of get on these soapboxes from time to time. But that our worship world seems to be going counter, I don't know, I don't want to say counter-biblical, but just kind of going against what, a lot of wisdom that has been laid out for thousands of years, in that when people like myself kind of get, up there in years. Now I'm 41 turning 42, but I was trained in a lot more classical traditional setting. And so, I've kind of gone through a transition where now, because of my skill set and because of my age, I'm not really relevant in most churches when it comes to being a worship leader. and I don't think I could get a job in a lot of churches as their worship leader. I might be able to get a job as as a behind the scenes person, maybe a worship producer or something like that. But our worship world has lost its appreciation for mentorship, and like you just said with homeschooling, being able to come alongside others who are going through the journey on their own, maybe for the first time, and kind of encourage them and share what you learned in your 25 years of doing that. I mean, that's a huge wealth of information that if someone else can tap into that, then they're going to save themselves a lot of pain and frustration and headaches. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of missing that in the worship world. And so I think you had some thoughts on that. I'll put you on the spot if you have anything about that for worship ministries.
Well, I will say, I've felt the shift. I'm approaching the 50s crowd really soon. So yeah, interestingly, I was in a church for a long time where, it's piano and organ, mm-hmm. and the pianist would pretty much play a vital role in keeping the momentum of the music going.
Right.
And then our current church, we've been there for probably close to 10 years. That was a huge shift. Mm-hmm. We had a very small worship team back then. And then fast forwarding to now, I'm probably one of the musicians that's been on the worship team the longest. And we have we're blessed with 3 great leaders who kind of rotate around. But 2 of them are extremely, a lot younger than I am. They were probably 12 when we first came to the church. So, mm-hmm. But I feel very blessed because I feel like they've offered our team a lot of flexibility as far as what each individual musician is capable of. It seems like our leaders work really hard to draw out the gifts of each musician. So I've had my moments of resistance with certain things, like, oh, we're going to do that chord and that. No. Okay, but they've been wonderful, and I've been blessed to work with a great team of people. So, and it goes back to the learning curve thing. It really is an art that it's learned over a period of time, mm-hmm. And you learn when there's opportunities to stand out as a pianist, and then there are opportunities for you to support the guitarist on their little riff of the song. And when everybody works together like that, it's so amazing what comes out of a purposeful practice time. Mm-hmm. And when we have those purposeful practices, sometimes it's just, it's chaos. We can't seem to get it together. And then, we're actually worshiping on Sunday mornings with our congregation. And it's like God brings it all together like clockwork. Mm-hmm. It's truly amazing. So,
yeah. I'm glad to hear that. That's, those are some encouraging things to hear. I appreciate how you said your worship leaders and your church in general. It sounds like it's not just good teamwork. I would say it's good Christianity, right? Everyone has different gifts, and sometimes you need this gift in this situation, and you need a different gift in a different situation, and it's not always only for the one person with the loudest gift, I should say,
right?
And you're just kind of thinking of the imagery of Scripture and the mouth, and that's kind of the ones we spend the most of our time and attention on are the vocal ones, the ones that garner the most attention. But especially in a band or in a music setting, all the pieces are important, and when you start missing some of them, then you start to feel how important they are. But it's oftentimes you don't notice that until you start missing them, until they're gone.
Right.
And one of the
Absolutely.
I think one of the things is a good pianist, a good keyboardist really fills in a lot of gaps and really makes it in a lot of situations makes it easier for a guitarist to shine, or for other solo instruments to be able to shine. And if that's out on its own by itself without a nice supportive instrument like the piano, then it can kind of stand out like a sore thumb. But it just, when it's a part of a team, it works really well. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've been in worship ministry for a long time.
Well, yeah, probably more in the worship team setting, probably about the past 10 years.
Okay.
As far as piano, my dad made me play when I was 16. He's like, our church doesn't have a pianist. You can do it. Get up there and do it. And, I don't have any regrets of his pushing me to do it because, I needed somebody to push me, obviously. And, we'll all tell everybody that it's a gift from the Lord. He gives it to us. And it was probably, what would you call it? Like the seed hasn't germinated yet. The gift hadn't really come to manifest itself yet, but it was hidden. And my dad realized that. So he started putting me up there at 16, and that's kind of where I got started. And my heart wasn't always in it from the beginning, but it's amazing how God brings that joy to the gift eventually, and it's like, wow, this is it's the best. It's a privilege to do it. So
So was your dad a pastor then, or?
Not at the time. He not when I was 16.
Okay.
He did pastor some later on. But he is probably one of my primary influencers. He would sing to me when I was little. He would play the guitar. He would do the frets, and I would go and I would strum and sing along. So he was very influential in who I am as a person today. So
cool. Yeah, that's a good tribute to your dad the day after Father's Day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I want to maybe talk a little bit, if you're okay, about your music. And so you've composed quite a bit of music. I see not only your Lavender Fog, but I hadn't seen this one yet. The Journey of a Waltz that you did with how do you say his name? Cheeky.
Oh, that's Cheeky Serrano. Yeah. And it's interesting because I met him through a Facebook group also. He was doing one of those playlist opportunities, and so I thought, oh, a cello player. I need a cello player. And I listened to something he did. What was it? I think it was 1,000 Years. I listened to that and I thought, this is the sound I really want. And it was one of those things where it was like, he's probably a super uber professional person, and who am I, a little person asking, hey, can we collaborate on something? And he was gracious to respond and to be willing to try to collaborate. And I think we started that in January, and we had it together by February to put out. He doesn't speak any English. I don't speak any Spanish. So we did like Google Translate and Facebook chat, and it was hilarious, but it was really a neat opportunity. Wonderful experience. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that now. I was interested in that idea. And I know we have a lot of artists listening, a lot of people probably wanting to figure out Spotify themselves and how to get their music out there. And that's been something I've been kind of asking you questions about, because you're doing well. I think you're doing well. From my perspective, you're doing well. And but that was one of the things when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's something that I was thinking about. With country musicians and just kind of mainstream artists do that all the time, where they'll collaborate with someone. And it seems like even recently, almost all of the Grammy winners Grammy song winners and Song of the Year have been some kind of collaboration. It's not It's not usually, it hasn't been a solo artist for a while. What are your thoughts on collaboration and getting, kind of getting your music out there, maybe helping other artists get started in that way?
Well, I feel like, I know it was going on before COVID, but I feel like it's something that artists did more of because, we're all trapped at home. So that's where I started noticing that a lot of my artist friends were doing that. And I did approach some of them and ask questions, what does this look like? And it seems like every individual situation is unique, as far as, you've got to look at your expectations and the other person's expectations and, figuring out, can we do this together well? Can we mesh? Because sometimes you have a more dominant personality. Right. So, you get two dominant people together. I don't know if that would be easy or not. Right. And I've only done, the one collaboration so far. But, we have this modern technology that enables us to do that nowadays.
So was this all online then, I'm guessing?
It was, yeah.
Wow.
It was all online. So
where is Cheeky? Where does he reside?
Okay, he is in, I believe it's Toledo, Spain.
Oh wow.
So yeah, different culture and everything.
Different continent,
so,
yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that's fun.
But it was interesting. I had the main portion of it written, and I sent it to him. I said, "Hey, I wrote a cello part for this, but I'd like to see what you could do with it." So that cello part in there, he actually wrote that and performed it and everything, and then he put it all together, and he came up with the idea for the video, and that was. That was probably the hardest part, was putting the video together and syncing everything, because I had to make my portion of the video here, and then he had to do it there. So
okay. So where's the video? Where do you find the video?
The video is on YouTube, and it's under you can find it either under my name, Christi Stills. You can subscribe to me there. Or Cheeky Serrano also has the video under his subscriber name as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, YouTube is another one of those things that barely gotten into until this, and then we thought, well, we should have been doing this all along. If we had, how much further ahead would we be by now? But
there's so much.
Yeah.
There really is.
You're a composer. Were you professionally trained, or did you train yourself?
No. I barely know anything as far as the probably the academic side of music theory. I know my 1 chord and my 4 chord and my 5 chord. I can play a C scale. But my composing, I guess it started out probably when Mom put me in lessons. I didn't have that. I don't think I had quite. I was in 2nd grade. I don't think I had that cognitive ability yet to sight read. So the teacher would show me how the song went, and I would just copy what she did. And I was very auditory, so I could hear something and go up to the piano and play it. I remember doing like the Mellow Yellow commercial. I picked it out on the piano when I was about 9, if that gives you any idea of my age. But where was I going with that? Composing. So I guess it's something I've done, ever since there's been a piano in the living room, just picking things out. And then a lot of my process now is, riding down the road, there's a tune in my head. I don't know how it got there. Obviously the Lord put it there. And so I don't always, I'm not always sitting at my computer where I can, capture that melody. So sometimes it's pulling into the gas station and grabbing a receipt, GABD, So as far as being trained, it's probably more of a self-learned journey that I've been on. So,
but then somewhere along the way, you've picked up a lot of skills like transcribing music. So. That's
backwards. I learned to sight read backwards. I learn it auditorily, and then, thankfully the transcribing tools we have play it back. So
right.
So I can check my work a little bit.
Yeah. So you kind of went through this lifelong journey of. So it sounds like playing by ear, and then. That's basically how I've learned. But somewhere along the way you started composing. So what does it look like then when you're composing a song? You just mentioned pulling off to the side of the road to get an idea, but how do you go from a little snippet of an idea to a full blown composition?
I feel like it's like a simmering process. It doesn't happen overnight. I have to sit and play with it, and I have things I've been editing and altering for months now, obviously, and I haven't been able to go back to the studio to record for a long time. So it's just things keep changing and evolving with everything I'm working on. It seems like so it's it's an art. It can't be rushed. So. Yeah. So
then it sounds like you do most of your recording in the studio. You go to a studio to record.
I do. I haven't learned the technology of recording yet. It hasn't been something I've really desired to do. I may have to at some point. But yeah. And then there's that complexity of, when you use a studio, you've got to pay to have the piano tuned. So It's like, how much can I cram into the session to make it worth it? So.
Yeah, that was another, because I was listening to it just this morning before we were talking. Like, that sounds really good. It sounds like a real piano, and of course I don't use a real piano when I record. It's all digital. Okay. I use what's the name of the? I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to have to think of it. But I just bought a piano sample, last year to use, and it's the piano I would love to have. It's the Yamaha. It's CFX Concert Grand. It's put out by Garriton, but it's it's the C7, which they recorded in some multi-million-dollar studio, and all the nuance and everything like that. But a C7 piano, a Yamaha C7 is like 70, 80, maybe more, $100,000 depending on what you're wanting.
Well, your recordings sound amazing.
Well, thank you. But that's their credit. That's why they sound like real pianos, because it's those guys.
I thought it was real.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so then you live in Nashville, so I'm guessing you have a lot of studios to choose from.
Well, I'm in Knoxville.
Okay.
So I'm a few hours from Nashville.
Okay, I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. So right now I have a studio in Asheville, North Carolina that I've been going to, recording on a C6.
Okay.
And that's where I started out, and I've learned a lot, and it's been a good experience. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you working on anything new right now? It sounds like, do you have anything in the pipeline you're getting ready to release sometime?
I don't have anything ready to release. I have probably at least a dozen or more compositions I'm working on. And I, now that I'm through this busy season with homeschooling, graduating my baby and all that, I'm ready to put all that together and plan another trip to the studio. So.
Okay, cool. So sometime in the next year or so, maybe we'll hear.
Hopefully, I'd like to before fall, if I can get it all together. So, I'd like to put more out there. So
what would if someone's listening and they're a starting artist, not a starving artist, but a starting artist. What would be a few tips that you would give them to help get started and get their music heard on Spotify and other places out there where they can start maybe earning a little bit of an income off of their passion?
Tips. Repeat that question one more time for me.
What would be some advice you would give to artists that are starting their journey of getting their music heard by people outside their family?
One thing I would say is, and this is very hard to do, I would say try not to compare yourself to other artists who are doing similar things. I struggled with that in the very beginning. I thought, oh man, if I could just get to where so-and-so is, we're all on a different path.
Right.
And God has woven us each uniquely. I don't think he wanted us to have a boring world of people who could all do the same thing,
right,
like each other.
Yeah.
So I would say try really hard not to compare yourself to other artists doing similar things. And also reach out. If you see someone who's doing something that you like, reach out to them and get tips from them on what they're doing and how they're doing it. I've been very blessed to have some good mentors along the way. And that has been huge in, just keeping the momentum up and not wanting to give up when it gets hard. So. Right.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you've mentored me in some ways about getting some other listeners and some lists that you can submit to and that sort of a thing, and it's good advice. I don't think that I'm following that advice because I'm still comparing myself to people, and it's like, man, I'm kind of stuck. I kind of peaked at the moment for my listeners around 170 or so. I peaked at a couple hundred and then have kind of dropped back down to 170. I'm like, I don't even know how it's possible to get to 1,000, let alone 10,000, let alone you go look at some of the guys that I like to follow, and they've got 1 million or 2 million or 6 million monthly listeners. I'm like, how is that even possible? It just doesn't seem like it was even something that could be done by a human. There must be something else behind it.
Yeah. And, we both know that didn't happen overnight for
right.
them. So that's what we have to remind ourselves. It didn't come overnight. It's, I just look for the little opportunities to connect with people. And, sometimes it comes into conversation what I do, especially, when it comes to like young moms with babies. It's like, oh, hey, I got some music you might be interested in to put your baby to sleep at night. It might be helpful, try it, so just looking for those opportunities, even just on a regular basis of connecting with people. Yeah. And it's a slow climb, and I know I look at those numbers every day too. It's like, oh man, I dropped another 200. How did that happen?
Right.
So,
your song Lavender Fog off of the album has like 500,000 listens, so that's pretty remarkable, right?
Yeah. So
I don't know. I think that's pretty good. But then it's easy then to go looking at some of the others and say, oh well, I don't know if I could ever get to that level, and maybe I don't know that of course it'd be nice to get to that level in some respects, but that can't be, I don't think, our driving force of why we're doing what we're doing. Otherwise, absolutely. Then it just kind of becomes, I think we kind of become a part of the problem. We just become a part of the commercial machine that's just trying to put out product to try to get a certain result, as opposed to because it's something we're passionate and gifted in.
Right. Right. So we love what we do.
Right.
And that's what keeps us going with it. So.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to share with us this morning? I'm looking over my list here of questions.
Well, as far as parenting, listen to your kids, watch your kids. I will say that I'm more of an outside the box learner. I didn't do well academically growing up. And henceforth I didn't get very far in the standard world of education. But everyone has gifts that God has given them. And that's what I learned to do later in life with my kids. It's like I'm, just watch them and see what their desires are, what drives them, and support them and help them through their journey, because that's where they're going to be confident. And if they can be confident in those areas, it's going to help them in a lot of other areas, when they have to do hard work, when they have to endure. So so anyway,
it's hard for any of us, but especially our kids, to persevere through a challenging season, if it's not something that they're passionate about, if it's not something that's coming from inside them, if it's something that we're putting on them from the outside, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out with our kids, trying to help them, because the tendency, I want them to all work on music, and I've done a poor job at teaching them music. And part of that's because I learned by ear for the most part. That's how I play, by ear. And so I don't even have I actually studied music theory and composition in college, but I don't have a method. I don't have a method for teaching someone else music. It's just I understand music, but most of it's
right.
kind of almost in retrospect and kind of cobbled together after the fact, as opposed to learning it the right way. And so I've really not taught my kids music as well as I want to, and trying to figure out how to do that. We're actually trying an app right now to try to work the kids through just some of the basics of piano, and it's the what's it called, Musician.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And so far I think they're kind of having fun with it, and that was the problem, because I wasn't confident in teaching, because I wasn't confident in how to teach. Then I'm trying to work through a book, and trying to help them learn the right way, so that they're not learning how I learned. And I'm frustrated because I don't know I don't know what the book was trying to accomplish in this in this section, or in the first this set of lessons, and then they're kind of getting frustrated because I'm frustrated. It's like, so this just isn't working. We're gonna try something different. But that was a long roundabout way of saying, so I want them to learn music, but at the same time, I want them to use their gifting, and that may not be music, and I want to be okay with that. I grew up in a musical family, so it kind of feels like we need to be a musical family, but at the same time, right. God has gifted different all of us differently with our arts, and I think every human being is creative. That doesn't mean we're all musical.
Yeah, I can relate well to that. Because with our daughter, she picked up with flute and oboe, earlier on, and my husband and I are both musical, and so we automatically thought our son's gonna trail along, and we tried piano lessons with him, and he really didn't enjoy it. And I thought, this is not a battle I want to fight,
right?
Because maybe it's just not meant to be,
right?
But then in the last year or so, he has really picked up, and he'll sit down at the piano and try different things, and he's got that that gift of playing by ear. And so I've tried to watch him and support him in that. And encourage him, because music is a thing you can take with you on your lifelong journey. Right. So
yeah, that's something when I was primarily a worship pastor, not a senior pastor, I was always talking with parents, and I kind of don't appreciate youth sports all that much. And part of the reason is because it's so time consuming, and it's so temporary. I mean,
Right.
you've got your physical strength for only so long, but you've got your ability to be musical or creative for your whole life, or
Right.
most of your life. I mean, even I had a senior pastor who played piano, and he had arthritis really bad in his hands, but I'd still hear him playing the piano when he was 78, 79 years old in the sanctuary from time to time. And so there's even when our bodies start to fail, we still have the ability to express that creativity if we've invested in it. So
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
well, I'll give you the
Yeah.
final word. What word of encouragement would you have to either young pianists who are trying to get started out there, or other pianists, keyboardists who are playing in worship teams across the country and not quite sure what they're offering to the team and how they can help? What would you give to those listening in?
Well, I would say keep striving. We're all striving. Keep serving, and excel still more, because He is worthy. And just keep on with it. It's a growing thing. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to experience a lot of joy in the journey. So,
Good.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being with us here today on the Worship Ministry Catalyst podcast, and we thank you for your music. We thank you for your ministry, not just what we get to listen to on Spotify, but your ministry there in your local church, and just your ability to come alongside people who may not have as much experience as you, and just offer your advice to them and encourage them and equip them along the way. We appreciate all that you're doing there, and I appreciate all the ways that you've helped me over the last couple months try to get my foot in the door on some things, and just thank you for doing all that, and thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to chat. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
So where can we find you online besides Spotify? You can find Christi on Spotify, Christi, Christi Stills. So that's how you find her on Spotify. Where else can we find you and connect with you?
Any of the major streaming platforms. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't do a lot of Instagram, but I'm trying to get better. And on Instagram, I am lowercase _piano_lady, all lowercase. So that piano lady.
That piano lady on Instagram.
And YouTube
Facebook.
Also.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit on YouTube, but I'm like you. I haven't gone into all of the, there's so much out there, and you've only got so many hours a day.
Right.
So.
Well, I was, I did a Christmas album in 2012. It wasn't piano. It was, just kind of other stuff I enjoyed doing. And it still hasn't eclipsed 1,000 listens in the whole 9 years that it's been out. But when I started working on music this year, that was when I discovered that Google Music was gone, and that they had migrated everything over to YouTube Music, and they had created a profile for me, and all my songs were out there, and they had a few listens too. I was like, wow, that was awesome. I didn't even have to do any work. I have to figure out how to take advantage of that a little bit more. But
Oh, yeah. And maybe put that on Spotify eventually soon. So
it's on Spotify. It's just
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's different. It's not. There's a couple songs on there I think are pretty decent, but I was kind of in a spot where I decided I'm going to do the music I want to do and create the music I want to do, and if someone wants to listen to it, great, and if not, I'm not going to worry about it.
Oh, that's great.
So that was kind of my mindset when I did it, and it turned out that I enjoy it, but not very many others have. So.
Oh, well, I have enjoyed your piano music.
Thank you.
Especially your hymns album and your recent your album of originals. That's been really very, very nice to listen to. So
well, thank you. It's there's a lot of I guess you could be a lot of people, especially successful artists pre-streaming probably had or have a lot of frustrations about how streaming has changed everything, but at the same time, it's created a whole lot of opportunity.
Absolutely.
I did an experiment this summer. Or I guess about a month and a half ago, I just recorded the "Battle Belongs" by Phil Wickham as an instrumental. I just wanted to see what would happen, and that's the song that's gotten the most listens. And
Wow.
you talk about like a worldwide audience. It was Singapore that kind of bumped that up and got it.
Wow.
Wow. So maybe we have to.
You never know.
find someone in Singapore to kind of be a champion for my music. It's just kind of interesting how that all plays out. But if it wasn't for Spotify and the ability to stream, even though I may not make as much money by selling a physical album, there's, I think, a long-term benefit that could outweigh what I could do just by being, if I was trying to be the local artist that went around to churches and did concerts and that kind of a thing. That's right. You have to put in a lot of time and effort to even get those opportunities, and if with the technology we have, there's actually opportunity just kind of sitting there waiting for us to find. So
oh yeah. A wealth of it seems
right
like.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry, I could keep going and asking questions and talking about this for a long time, but listeners, make sure you go check out Christi's music, and we'll keep you posted when she releases that. We'll make sure we post that on our Facebook page. You can find us at facebook.com/worship ministry catalyst. That's our main place, and then just our website is worshipministrycatalyst.com. And if you have time and you're listening to the podcast, if you don't mind leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and letting people know that we're still out there. This was our 229th episode, I think. I didn't say that at the beginning, but we've been around for quite a few years, and we've taken some time off over the last 3 or 4 years, but kind of been back in the swing of it for a year or so. And so if you can leave a review and just help others find us and let others know that we're still around, we would appreciate that. But until then, have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us once again on the Worship Ministry Catalyst podcast.
And make sure to add your voice to the conversation. You can find us at twitter.com/WM Catalyst.
On Facebook at facebook.com/worship ministry catalyst.
Or head over to worshipministrycatalyst.com and drop us a note.